Welcome to Triad News. I'm Deja Ross.
And I'm Amanda Crow. Coming up, are you having trouble finding a place to park?
And the protests surrounding President-elect Donald Trump.
But first, let's join Triad News meteorologist Scott Hardesty for a first look at our weather to see if these beautiful skies will continue. Scott?
Hi guys, yeah, colder temperatures are coming in, so you might want to get your jackets ready. Looking here in the North Carolina area, we still have some high pressure. That's going to lead to some sunny skies, but not much rain, so that's a problem for our firefighters out west, but more on that later. Back to you guys.
Love the cooler temperatures and those great sunsets.
Certainly been some amazing fall weather so far. Thanks, Scott.
There's a petition circulating through social media that wants to ban HPU freshmen from bringing their cars on campus. John Johnny first started the petition and already has 148 student signatures. For years, we have continued to enhance our campus. Both faculty and students have had an increasingly hard time finding parking before class. Here are some students' thoughts about the petition. We're having audio issues, so we're gonna keep going.
Keep on keeping on.
Yep.
Universities will all tell you that parking issues develop during those high class period times between 10 and 2, isn't that right?
Yeah. You know, with college kids involved, guess that means the parking issues will never go away.
Mm-hmm. And if you've been closely following the much anticipated trial of House Bill 2, you're going to have to wait a little longer. The trial has been pushed off once more until late next summer. It was supposed to begin Monday, but the judge granted a delay to await results of a Virginia transgender bathroom case, which could have an effect on the legislation. The law has seen great controversy over its bathroom clause, which requires people to use restrooms in government buildings that correspond with the sex on their birth certificate. Since coming into law, a number of entertainers, sporting events, they've all pulled out of North Carolina, costing the state millions of dollars in revenue.
In light of the recent election, many people across the nation have responded in various ways, mostly depending on how they voted.
But many families are more fearful than ever. With President-elect Donald Trump's campaign promises about mass deportations, people are scared their families will be broken up.
Triad News reporter Kayla Scholes has spoken to one family who is very concerned. Kayla?
Hi, so families across America are worried and they are curious and anxious about President Donald Trump, what he'll do after he takes office in late January. Throughout his campaign, he has said if he becomes president, he will deport 2 to 3 million immigrants immediately upon taking office. While some are supporters of this idea, other Americans are against it. I talked via Skype with a family in Houston, Texas, who is scared their family will be broken up. So her father is from Lima, Peru, and he actually moved to America in 1998, and they're worried that he's going to be deported. She actually had a dream the night of the election, and it was her mom and her sister were all crying, and her dad was actually being taken away in a military truck. So she woke up and she said that she woke up and she was shooken up and she was shaking, and so ever since the dream, she's just been really nervous with all the talk that's been going on. But her dad is a naturalized legal citizen now, but it's still just the fear that they don't know what's going to happen once Trump gets into office.
Well, that is scary.
Very.
Well, thank you, Kayla.
You're welcome.
Hundreds of high school students in Maryland walked out of class on Monday. around 10:30. They were protesting Donald Trump's election victory.
That's right. Students from Wilson High School in Washington, D.C., and as well as Montgomery Blair High School, they walked onto their school's football field on Monday.
Blair High School joined in and marched along University Boulevard, where the crowd grew bigger with kids from Northwood and Albert Einstein High School, adding to the peaceful protest.
Students say the protests were an effort to have their voices heard.
We're joined now by the Triad News reporter Justin Paterno, who is here to discuss the recent post-election protests against Donald Trump.
Yes, I am. So recently, one of these rallies happened in our local city, Greensboro, as you can see right here. This is on Elm Street. It was a pretty effective rally, I would say. There weren't a lot of people, but for those who were there, their voices were heard, and they did everything right. They registered with the local police station. They made sure everyone was staying safe, and of course, one of the most important things here was to make sure that it was a peaceful protest, and it stayed peaceful. Talking to people there, the reason why they would do that is because they said if they were violent and had violent protests, then they wouldn't be any better than the Trump supporters who are, you know, spreading hate crimes and just being relatively violent to those who don't deserve it, because no one really does deserve it. And also, one of our other sources, one of our other reporters in Boston also got one of the rallies that happened in the Boston Commons, and you can take a look at it here. Yeah, so as you can see, this one wasn't necessarily as peaceful. There was a lot of very angry people with a lot of angry signs. A lot of what they were pointing out was the fact that there is a verified wall that's going to be built, and there's going to be, as Kayla said, up to 2 to 3 million people being deported just because Trump feels that they are criminals.
Yeah, that looks like pretty fierce there. Lots of millennials, you can tell. The Boston Commons is right across the street from Emerson College, so I'm sure lots and lots of Emerson students were there.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of students, but also when it comes down to it, a lot of the younger voters, 18 to 25, did indeed vote for Hillary. So a lot of the protesters, it makes sense, are 18 to 25. But what's important is that there haven't been too many instances of violence, and that we're not letting this get out of hand. I think the police departments are doing a good job taking care of these students mostly, and hopefully they get their voices heard and they can make a change if they want to.
Yes, thank you, Justin. In a year plagued by protests for a number of different reasons, one can only hope that differences are resolved quickly as well as peacefully.
Right.
Thank you, Justin. In other news, wildfires in the country are typically out west in places like California and Arizona. But right now, the recent dry season has created quite a nightmare for people living in the south. Triad News reporter Epiphany Preeb has been following the fires a little closer to home. Epiphany?
Thank you, guys. 40,000 historical acres of the mountains in western North Carolina have burned. The fires began on October 23rd. As you can see on the map, land continues to burn as the fires raging through the majority of the western state. The smoke is beginning to reach High Point, North Carolina in the central area as we're all starting to see smoke in our mornings. Triad News has obtained footage from WLOS in Asheville. At one point, the firefighters thought they had it contained, but as high winds and lack of rain have made the fire spread, firefighters from as far away as Alaska are being flown in to battle the blaze that has broken out in over 20 acres of the Tar Heel State. About 1,600 firefighters from across the country are shuttling into the mountains. Some firefighters who have been injured in highly dangerous jobs are being airlifted out. Forest fire experts and fire chiefs have rushed to critical areas where the fires have jumped the containment lines. The last rains were in early October, and there is no rain in the immediate forecast, leaving people who live in the area scared for their homes as they continue to evacuate. So lots of people are in hoping for the rain as Mother Earth and nature continue, and we hope for a rain in our forecast.
Thank you, Epiphany. Let's hope the wind cooperates and pray for a little bit of rain, definitely for those people out there in West.
Yes, and coming up next, some great sights from across the pond.
And it's getting to be that time of year when college students begin to pull their hair out from all the stress. Stay with us. Welcome back to Triad News. I'm Amanda Crow.
And I'm Deja Ross.
College students are always thrilled when they get their first job.
Then they realize they are oftentimes working 50 weeks per year with only 2 weeks of vacation.
So many students take advantage of their time in college to study abroad.
High Point University junior Kimmy Swam is studying at Trinity University in Leeds, England, and takes us on a tour of the famed Lake District.
Yeah, she had amazing photos of all of Leeds, the university, the surrounding area. It's very, very historic. Everything in the UK, obviously, very historic.
I think she's going to Paris next weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that looks like. I studied abroad last fall in the UK myself, so I know this time of year it can be really rainy and kind of cold, but honestly, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world.
I actually went to Japan last Maymester, and again, like you said, I wouldn't change that experience for anything. It was so much fun, nothing like it.
So I also understand studying abroad can be kind of a stressful experience. Scott Hardesty here maybe can talk to us a little bit about how that stress is affecting us.
Well, stress in general is kind of a crazy thing. I talked to some professors and some students about how, and I'm sure you guys can say yourselves, stress this time of year during finals week, and what just passed? We all just signed up for classes.
Yes.
Did you guys get all your classes?
Yeah, I
You
did.
did? All right, so I actually missed. I woke up, my registration time was 7, and right then one of my classes got filled up and had to scramble to find something else. That happens to a lot of students. I'm sure you guys are the outlier, but still, this time of year with finals coming up, students are cramming to get ready for their finals, and we still have Thanksgiving though, so it's a little weird
break.
how
Yeah, absolutely.
we have this little break, but then we're gonna get slapped with finals right after.
I'm a second semester senior, so it was not at all hard for me to get my classes, but it doesn't mean I don't experience all of that stress.
Let me ask you guys something. Do you think stress is, is self-induced?
It can be.
It can be. I do think that.
Could be. When I was asking some of the students and the teachers, one of the teachers here, Professor McGee Lazara, she gave me a great example of, yeah, she thinks some stress is, like if you pile on your schedule with a bunch of classes, I mean, it's a little bit of your fault, but if you're willing to take it, that's on you. But this is her example. If there's a Colt 45 against the temple of your head, that's not exactly your fault. That's someone else's stress they're putting on you. That's not your fault. So that was her example.
That's such an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, Teresa's a colorful character, and I love her. But again, when it comes to class registration, it's kind of on you for whatever. It's how much stress you want to put on yourselves, but also you got to graduate.
Yeah, so for that other percentage of the time, what do you think, what would you recommend for somebody who is trying to de-stress a little bit?
So when I asked Charisse, her go-to answer was aromatherapy. Some, like candles that are supposed to induce a certain kind of de-stressor or mood, like lavender is supposed to help you sleep easier. I don't know I'm not sure how I believe in aromatherapy, but that was one of her things. An RA I talked to, her name's Kenya Cooper. She finds that if she makes a checklist and just gets first of all writing it all down and you can see it all, making it visual really helps. But also when you check it off one by one by one, it kind of it's a load off your shoulders each time. So it's a quick de-stressor as she goes through her list and checks it off. So that's an easy de-stressor.
Well, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Well, in other news, spray painting graffiti on a wall can get one arrested, but not so for a group of High Point University students. Triad News reporter Livy Brain introduced our package. Professor Nahed Eltantawi's woman in the media class took up the paint cans to spread a message and inspire change.
Yeah, some really cool artwork it looked like.
Very cool.
Coming up next, a special day for some special people.
And weather person Scott Hardesty will have your full forecast. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Triad News. I'm Amanda Crow.
And I'm Deja Ross.
Veterans Day now has more meaning for one retired veteran. George Hood was a Marine officer. On Friday, he set the world record for the longest plank, which consists of balancing one's body on their elbows and toes for a period of time. That record is 9 hours, 11 minutes, and 1 second. Hood first set this record last year at over 5 hours, but then a Chinese SWAT officer beat that by going over 8 hours. So now the record is back in an American's hands.
Wow, that is amazing. It's always important to recognize those that serve our country, and this past weekend, High Point University did just that.
Absolutely. Let's take a look.
Well, last week, High Point University held a luncheon in honor of Veterans Day. The luncheon consisted of speakers such as Major General Kevin McConnell, former commanding general in the United States Army, and High Point College graduate Celia Sandys, the granddaughter of Winston Churchill, and High Point University's own President Nito Cobain. Once the ceremony was over, each veteran was given an HPU blanket to show our gratitude for their service. We hear about honoring our veterans so often, but it's so eye-opening to see it done in person, in such grand fashion. I can't wait to see what the school does for next year's celebration.
Wow, I love that they had the whole We Heart Veterans in the sign. Oh,
Yes.
That was great.
Yearly temperatures seem to climb higher and higher each year, and this year, no different. 2016 is on track to be the hottest year on record, according to the United Nations Weather Agency. Long-term climate change indicators are also record-breaking. Concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere continue to rise. Even the Greenland ice sheet started melting earlier than usual this year. If 2016 breaks the record, 16 of the last 17 hottest years will have occurred this century.
Well, while we're on the subject of weather, let's check in with our meteorologist, Scott Hardesty, to see how next week is looking so far. Scott?
Hi guys, quick word on that guy planking. My longest plank is 2 minutes. Don't be too impressed. Anyway, so looking at our pressure map here, we can see just about everywhere in the U.S. we have about high pressure, except right in the center here, this low pressure system moving across the country, but it's probably gonna fade out right before Tennessee, which is obviously some unfortunate news due to the fires out in western North Carolina and in the Tennessee area. Again, the fires, big problems. I think they've burned over about 46,000 acres worth of land. Not good for those firefighters. Best of luck to them out there. But if we go back and take a look at some of the temperatures we're dealing with here, you can kind of see Canada seems to be invading our warm weather here, bringing in some cold weather, some mid to low 40s, even some 30s here. And as you keep moving across the country, Texas is still enjoying some 80-degree weather, but here in North Carolina, it's some comfortable 60s. And if you go to our North Carolina map, we see comfortable 60s across the North Carolina state with a chilly 57 here. But when we go to our 5-day forecast, you'll see that in the mornings, you can actually expect some 40-degree mornings, and even at some nights in the past couple of days, I've felt some 30s. Wednesday, tomorrow, you'll see a high of 68 and a low of 42. And as we go through Thursday and Friday, you can actually see it warming up back up to 75, lows of in the mid to low 40s on each of those days. This Saturday, we had predicted rain. It seems a little shaky right now to call it. We might have to get a little closer before we can officially say rain Saturday. I'm not sure if we'll see rain, but we'll have a comfortable 65, low 30s. I don't think we'll see snow yet, sorry. And then on Sunday, as you can see, it's going to be drop way off to a high of 50 and a low of 30 in the morning. So it's definitely some jacket-worthy weather. Make sure to stock up on your winter clothing, because before you know it, we'll see some snow on the ground. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Scott. Well, it looks like we are going to have some sweater weather here, everybody. Time to pack those shorts away.
Yes, sounds like people have a lot to look forward to over Thanksgiving break. Thanks, Scott.
Coming up next, how the High Point sports teams are doing.
And did the men's soccer win out? We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Triad News. I'm Amanda Crow. A jury has delivered a verdict in the trial of Justin Ross Harris, the man accused of murdering his 22-month-old son. The Georgia man who left his son in a hot car has been found guilty on 3 counts of murder and 2 counts of cruelty to children, all relating to the death of his son Cooper. Harris was found to be exchanging lewd messages with 6 women, including a minor, while his son sat in the car all day.
Oil could be headed even lower. Forbes talked to energy experts who predict it will fall back to $20 a barrel. They expect things will continue to be bumpy in the near future. Oil is heading back to the January lows as hopes of an OPEC output freeze have been fading.
In the sports world, seasons are ending and seasons are beginning.
Joining us is Triad News sports analyst Claudia Behrens for the scores and highlights. Claudia?
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Deja. The HPU men's soccer team fell short to Longwood 1-0 in the semifinal match of the Big South Conference Tournament last Wednesday. The Panthers finished their season with a record of 11-4-4, the most wins since 2012. Siggy Benoitson, the Big South Freshman of the Year, led HPU with 10 goals, 4 assists in 19 games. The women's volleyball team finished their regular season with victories over Gardner-Webb and Presbyterian. The Panthers placed 3rd in the Big South with a record of 11-5. Sophomore Jordan Hefner recorded 122 total blocks, a new conference record. On Friday, HPU will play UNC Asheville in the opening round of the Big South Tournament in Lynchburg, Virginia. HPU men's basketball started their season strong with a 74-41 win over Abbott. The Panthers were led by senior Anthony Lindauer with a game-high of 16 points, and Andrew Fox had 14 points, a career best, as well as 8 rebounds. Up next for the Panthers is a match against Virginia Tech in Blacksburg on Sunday. The women's basketball team lost their season opener to Ohio University 76-48. Sophomore Lindsay Edwards led the Panthers with 11 points and a career high of 7 rebounds. With the basketball team underway, they look to improve on a 12-19 record from last season. That's all I have for sports. I'm Claudia Behrens.
Thank you, Claudia. It is time to think about Christmas trees.
And time to decorate. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Triad News. I'm Amanda Crow.
And I'm Deja Ross.
Police are investigating after an Amtrak train crashed and killed 2 people in Lexington early Monday morning.
Police say a man and a woman were lying on the tracks at the time of the collision. The train was heading from Virginia to Charlotte with 130 passengers on board when the crash occurred. There were no injuries to crews or passengers. While the police believe the victims were distracted at the time of the incident, it is still under investigation at this time.
The old Christmas tree debate is in full swing. Many people will be putting up their Christmas trees soon if they haven't already.
Of course, some say that's way too early. A writer for The Verge says people should feel free to put up their trees whenever, so long as they're fake trees.
Ugh, I could not do a fake tree, and consider this, the Christmas tree spirit starts even earlier for folks across the pond. Since the British don't celebrate Thanksgiving, their trees start creeping up early fall.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have. Thanks so much for tuning in to Triad News.
I'm Amanda Crow. We'll see you after Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Good night, High Point.